An eviction moratorium program is likely coming as a second stimulus package agreement allegedly is imminent. Hey, good afternoon, everybody. This is Afternoons with LALATE. Hope you're good and safe, enjoying your Saturday afternoon. You made it to the weekend. Congratulations. This is Afternoons with LALATE, our 2-hour programming block that starts at about 2:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time every day. This starts with a check, goes to hazard pay, then FPUC, and finally ends with rent assistance. Big developments overnight. If you did not catch them on this channel, starting late last night and continuing with mornings LALATE this morning, that an alleged deal in the second stimulus package is purportedly imminent. Several reports overnight say that the White House has really ditched Mitch, who was really the cause of the problems, and is trying to get this done quickly. This comes after new indications since then that Mitch McConnell is ultimately the one to blame for where we are this Saturday morning. That the HEALS Act, introduced to the Senate by Mitch, was allegedly written by Mitch, not supported by the president, not supported by other Republicans, and did not embody what the president wanted, nor had asked for, nor had publicly stated as to several key issues that this channel has been reporting to for weeks. The president had said he wants a generous stimulus check, and Mitch McConnell gave you a not generous stimulus check. The president said he wanted a rent eviction moratorium, and the stimulus package from Mitch didn't have a rent eviction moratorium. So what happened? Ultimately, the president had enough. And this came as news overnight that Mitch McConnell is literally throwing the president down underneath, over and under the bus, whatever the expression is, or whether I embellished it just then. That allegedly Mitch McConnell is telling leading Republicans in the Senate to not back the president and to distance themselves from him, both financially, economically, policy-wise, and on social issues come the fall election, because he thinks that he is in trouble. The president got wind of that and is not happy. So Mitch McConnell is out of the picture, allegedly, and Steve Mnuchin, Mark Meadows, Nancy Pelosi, and Chuck Schumer are allegedly negotiating for the second stimulus package. Despite what you're going to hear tomorrow on Sunday Morning News, which is the Hot Mess Express, please ignore it, because it is expected that you're going to hear both talking heads from both sides that are saying there's no deal, not going to happen, isn't happening, they're bad, I'm good. It's just not true. The great news is that the president says he wants a written eviction moratorium. So let's get right to it. The president says that there will be an eviction moratorium under the second stimulus package. The eviction moratorium will protect you as a tenant from being evicted on the street. So the moment the bill is passed, the moment the bill becomes law, you would not be evicted. It is that simple. So let's say, for example, you've been served with an eviction notice, but the eviction proceeding hasn't started. Or let's say you haven't made rent and the landlord has told you they're about to evict you. If the law got literally passed on Friday next week and nothing else had changed for those eviction scenarios I just described to you, you would be saved. You would literally be allowed to stay in your apartment and not be evicted. The eviction numbers across the country are just overwhelming. I'll be getting to those in a second. Next, for your home, if you live in your home and you're about to be foreclosed upon because you can't make your mortgage, same thing. There would be a mortgage forbearance, which basically means protection against inability to pay the mortgage, and the bank could not foreclose upon your home. Also, if you are an apartment building owner, you don't have the income from the tenants because of the pandemic, then the bank could not foreclose on you as well. Protections across the board. On Thursday and Friday, the president said, I want an eviction moratorium. On Wednesday, he says, I want an eviction moratorium. He said that his eviction moratorium is better than Nancy and Chuck's. That was sort of the optics of it. Ultimately, it was better than Mitch's because Mitch gave you nothing. So, how does this work, and how do we need this protection? The way it works is there is multiple layers to what a rent bill looks like. There is the grant money, which I'm not going to be going over with, and I'll explain to you in a second why. And then there's the protections, the eviction and the forbearance. Ultimately, the president, the Democrats, and myself all understand the most important thing right now is not money. It's ensuring you're not thrown out on the street. We can figure out how to get the landlord their money in the next few weeks. That's not the problem, the landlord and their money, or the bank and their money. The problem is that we don't want them evicting you so that you can stay in your home. How does this work? Because it may be not clear to some people, so let me explain it to you. A protection of a moratorium or a forbearance says you can stay in your home and no legal proceeding, whether it's eviction or a mortgage foreclosure, can be done against you. You're safe. It doesn't say that you don't have to pay the money. It just says nothing can be done against you to collect the money. You can stay as you are. The protections are very, very comprehensive. They can't kick you out. They can't take your home. They can't take your apartment building. They also can't start to sue you. They can't also tell you to leave. They can't try to ruin your credit. They can't try to take your bank account. They can't do anything. They just can't proceed. The bills will pile up, but they can't do anything against you. It's the most important thing that has to be done right now. Now, grant, I'll explain to you just shortly. Grant is different than that. There's a lot of stimulus parts in the second stimulus package from the HEROES Act from the Democrats that pay for grant money that says, you know what, we're going to pay the tenants money so they can pay the landlord. We're going to pay the tenants utilities money so they can pay the utilities company. That needs to be done as well, but that's not urgent. That's not this minute, because if we protect you from being thrown out on the street, then we don't have to do anything else yet with the money. What's the situation? Let me describe the situation. And there's nothing good news about the situation. And every day I detail another economic data and it's worse than the day before. I just got to tell you what it is, because I'm not here to sugarcoat the situation. I have viewers that are losing their homes. I have viewers that are being thrown on the streets. I have viewers who are facing it or have had it happen to them. So it is real. It is real among this community, this family of this channel. The current situation is 23 million Americans have lost unemployment benefits. 40% of people, 50% of people who are renters are facing eviction or have been evicted across the country. 30 or 40 million new eviction cases are currently being filed in 50% of the states that do not have eviction moratoriums. The number of cases is so high it has never been seen since the Great Depression. The number of mortgage foreclosures pending is of a record number. 40% of U.S. households that make less than $80,000 a year are unemployed. The situation is very, very, very glim. And how glim is it? Well, there's a new economic report released minutes ago by Tendaya Capfiza, who's the chief economist at LendingTree. He spoke to CNBC, the financial channel, and he said that, when we talk about this problem, we're not just talking about a tenant and their apartment. Where this goes is very, very serious. Now, if you know this, if you've been with me with this channel for a couple of weeks, and if you haven't, you're new to this channel, please subscribe. I mean, no one does what I do for you. I really try to really protect and inform every viewer. The situation goes all the way up the food chain. You have the tenant who can't make rent, so the tenant could face eviction and be thrown on the street. And if you're thrown on the street, you can contract COVID-19, and COVID-19 cases can increase. Then you have the landlord. The landlord, if they don't get the rent, can't make their bills. So if the landlord can't make their bills, the mortgage owner, the bank, will foreclose against the apartment building. Then the bank has an apartment building which it doesn't want to own. It wants the mortgage payments. The banks then face default because they have all these mortgages that are part of their operating budget going in default. They're not getting the money for their mortgages, and they're picking up buildings which they don't want to have. Then banks face a massive run on liquidity. Then you have the Federal Reserve, which dropped interest rates to 0% yesterday, the lowest level of this entire pandemic. It can't figure out how to float the liquidity to banks to make sure they default. ultimately you really, really have a financial calamity. Now, what Tadias explains, which I did not realize, is that this financial calamity would extend farther than even that. Basically, what he's explaining is that the entire, not just the entire retail industry, but the entire real estate industry could collapse, because you would have this glut of homes in foreclosure on every single block, this glut of apartment buildings on foreclosure on every single block, and then it would expand to commercial, which is already hit very badly onto itself, commercial real estate. And you would literally have one of the core parts of the U.S. economy, real estate, in financial meltdown, simply because someone wanted to put an eviction moratorium bill line in a bill. It's like one paragraph, write it, get your crayons out, you bunch of children, and write it down. I'm not calling one person a child. I'm just calling Congress in general a child. That could lead to the decrease in home values in the owner-occupied market, he says in this new quote. And in even states in every city, there's a patchwork of different, kinds of laws that people are using, so it's really necessary to have a federal plan. We need a federal plan to deal with this rental crisis, or it's going to get worse. If you look at the data rate, about 8% of mortgages are right now in forbearance. The program that lets you defer a mortgage payment for about a year, in January, the delinquency rate was about 3%. Clearly, the people in the business of evicting folks of apartment buildings and homes are anticipating very big. So he says that only 8% of mortgages are protected, so 92% of mortgages are not protected right now. Awful. It's that type of seriousness. And so ultimately, when we're talking about extension of FPUC, we're talking about extension of rent assistance, we're talking about a stimulus check, there's a lot of stuff that has to be done. But the importance of it, of a mortgage forbearance and an eviction moratorium, is so critical, because guess what? I gotta say this, because no one else would dare say this. You can't send a stimulus check to a person if they're homeless, because the IRS won't find you. So why are we sitting back talking about stimulus checks and being more generous if everyone's going to be homeless next week? Why are we talking about, all this other crap that we shouldn't be talking about this week? We should only be talking about eviction moratoriums. We shouldn't be talking about whatever else has been coming out of Republicans and Democrats this week. Mitch McConnell's liability insurance bill. Why are we talking about protection from suing property building owners and property owners and banks and business owners during COVID-19? Mitch's insurance liability bill. Why are we talking about that? Because guess what? Homeless people don't usually sue people. They're homeless. So if you want to ensure that the American economy doesn't go into meltdown, you do exactly what you do, which is issue an order immediately to protect eviction moratoriums. Ultimately, as we come into the fall elections, you have the vast majority of the American public understanding something very simple. This president made most of his early money on real estate. And he understands the situation, the dynamic between a landlord and a tenant. He understands when a tenant can't make rent. And so in the face of a pandemic in which millions of Americans had to stay at home, couldn't work and didn't get work, and now are not getting unemployment benefits because of the inability of Congress to get it done, the president will be blamed because he understood the situation and didn't give a forbearance or protection for eviction moratoriums. It's a situation he doesn't want to face, and clearly is working in the situation of benefit of the American public. Mortgage forbearance, eviction moratoriums are needed for Americans. He knows it. That's why he said on Thursday and Friday, we need this for Americans. He has the focus. He is doing the correct thing. The Democrats have the focus, and they're doing the correct thing. It's just that one guy that seems to not understand the situation and rather have you homeless, not getting benefits and not doing much of anything, and worried about you suing people. The guy from Kentucky. If you have questions in today's video, drop them in the comments below. As always, stay with us for Afternoons with LALATE, and coming up later tonight, Evenings with LALATE. Stay motivated, stay positive, stay focused, and stay smiling, and stay with LALATE for more.